0-0, not much to see in that game today between Sunderland and Manchester United. Kay Murray and Janusz Michallik here to talk about what we did see. I suppose we'll start with the fact that United shot on target came in the 92nd minute, Janusz, and it was probably a shot that would have won the game for them from Cunha.
Yeah, I think you kind of knew with the five changes Manchester United has made, right? After they've accomplished what they wanted to accomplish, which is, last weekend win against Liverpool in the Champions League, a game with no implications really, right? But I think one that both teams would have taken at this stage, knowing the sort of season Manchester United had, the start, right? Nobody foreseen this happening. And Sunderland, of course, their job was to make sure that they stay in the Premier League. And both have accomplished that. It would have paid money ahead of the season. Certainly Manchester United for sure. So I kind of saw this coming. For me, Kate, the most important thing when it comes to Manchester United first was to finish the season with this sort of momentum and really don't have the drop off and play for the Guffer, right? They owe him that. They owe Michael Carrick what he's brought into the team and that massive turnaround since he came in January.
Yeah, let's use this then to talk about Michael Carrick if we can, and a few other things with big topics surrounding Manchester United at the moment. Going into this game today, there was talk about Manchester United looking to secure that third spot and Michael Carrick looking to secure the full-time role going forward. Where do you stand on it?
Oh, I mean, it's going to be difficult. I can appreciate, certainly the job that he's done because he's turned around a sinking ship. I mean, totally sinking ship. I mean, nobody has foreseen that. I don't think much has changed, right? If you look at this Manchester United, this is not a team of stars. This is not an exceptional team. This is a team that doesn't really have quality or depth of squad. But Michael Carrick did what others failed to do, just bring in simplicity. Brought the team back to the system of play, as we all know. We've talked about it, that they've enjoyed. And although I'm not in that dressing room, I think we can all say from outside looking in, someone that players respect, enjoy, and like playing under.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, this week, Bruno Fernandes was named the Football Writers Association Player of the Year, beating out Declan Rice and Erling Haaland. It took a divided opinion, in our ESPN FC studio, Janusz. And I wonder where you stand on it, because if you look at Bruno Fernandes, obviously he was looking to get that 20th assist today, which are incredible numbers. We also got the stat that he's been going into the match day, involved in more goals in the Premier League than anyone else in the Premier League since mid-January. And obviously, when things have been tough at Manchester United, he has consistently been one of the shining bright stars there. So where do you stand on him winning this award?
Looks two schools of thought. I think, I've been here just about every weekend and now for weeks been saying that, Bruno Fernandes gets it. I'm okay with it, right? He has single-handedly brought Manchester United to where they are right now. Maybe we'll get to talk about what Manchester United needs next season, which is quite a bit. But just forget all of that. And who's going to be the manager, which type of players they're going to get. But imagine if Manchester United this season or in season, in particular in this season, if he breaks down, where would United be? I mean, there's nobody else there that could carry that team. Nobody. There's not one player that I think that's capable with the way he plays, with his attitude, the fact that he's always playing anyway. I don't wish him to break down, but just imagine if that happens. So that's one school of thought. The other one, I suspect the conversation was, you've mentioned that ESPN FC has talked about it, I'm not sure, is Declan Rice. And I can understand that as well, right? Because, I mean, look where Arsenal are in front of them, still a very, very good chance of being the champions of the league and the final of the Champions League. I think in terms of leadership, very much the same as Bruno Fernandes, right? But I think that Arsenal has got a little bit more that they could handle. For those that are in the camp of Declan Rice, I suppose you have to look at it. I mean, look, and again, looking forward to Manchester United. I mean, what would have happened if they had to play twice a week, which they didn't, right? They had always had a week to prepare, to rest, and organize, and all of that for the most part. So apples and oranges to some degree. I value both players immensely, And as I've said it in the past, I'll say it again. I would have been fine with either decision. Both players absolutely outstanding this season.
I suppose another thing to look at going forward for Manchester United that stands out today is there was no Casemiro. Do you think he was missed? And obviously, we know Casemiro's not going to be around next season. Is this an area that United need to be looking at going into the new campaign?
Yeah, and even with the uptick in form, I don't want to be a hypocrite because, again, being here the entire season on on these after the games, Casemiro, I mean, it wasn't very good when United were not going because, that's the difference, right? When you have momentum, Casemiro is very much a player. When things go well for your team, he's going to show you the qualities because you don't forget that. But because of his age and because of the inability to run box to box sometimes as need be, as he was doing, often, not always, at Real Madrid, when things don't go well, he's not a chaser anymore. He's not a player that's going to be covering on the right wing if somebody doesn't get back in time on the, sliding over on the left hand side. And, it's just difficult. I mean, he's been, an incredible midfielder. We all know that. But I think, that change was always going to be needed. So did they miss him today? Absolutely, because Manchester United have had the momentum. They would have wanted to keep the winning streak going. But I think it was more today than just that. As I've mentioned, five changes to this team is a lot. The depth in squad, it just isn't there.
A little word on Sunderland, if we can, because obviously Sunderland battled and fought and probably could have won this game.
Yeah, I mean, they were the better team. I think, one of the teams, if I look at Senna Lemon's goalkeeper, right? And, when I think back to Andre Onana, I mean, he's made that team defensively much, much better. And we saw that, I think, if you remember in the first half, that save on Sadiki one-on-one and then on Brobbey as well. There were a couple other half chances, but and Kay, you would know that much better, hailing from England. But to me, if I look at Sunderland, this team reflects the city and the supporters, right? Hardworking,
willing to fight,
willing to fight,
everything they get.
Right, but also willing to have a go. This is not a team that just came up that desperately wants to save themselves in the Premier League. We've seen so many others, and I get that, right? I mean, it's so difficult. We've seen it recently, how difficult it is for these teams to stay up. They go up and usually they go down. This year, obviously, it's going to be an exception to the rule, but it reflects the supporters, reflects the city, and a team that showed throughout that they can play. I mean, they've had some good results today. I mean, notwithstanding beating Newcastle home and away, that's a biggie. But draws against City, Liverpool maybe as well. I think winning away at Chelsea. And let's not forget, they've been up there early in the season in the top 4 or 5, and I think that they've missed so many players to African Cup of Nations, remember. Although during that period of time, they didn't do it badly, but when they had the momentum, they were going so well, they had to they had to let go of a number of players, maybe more than most teams in the Premier League, to the African Cup of Nations. So a great season, really, when you look at it all around, and headed by, an immense leader in Granit Xhaka, who for me was the player of the match.
Yeah, what a brilliant leader he has been and what a great fit he's been here. So as we bring this to an end, as you mentioned, Janusz, you're on these so much more often than I am these days. It's great to be back on with you, but it seems as though Manchester United reserved their only 0-0 performance this season for me, coming back on here on ESPN FC Live with you. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we say goodbye about what we saw today?
No, just it's going to be interesting, in terms of United, what they do, because as I've said, they're limited, right? I mean, the fact that they're only playing once a week, they need so much help. It seems everywhere. I think it's been such a great finish to this season for Manchester United. But when I look at the team right now and look at how much depth and quality really they still need, because still, you can't imagine that they're going to be capable of fighting for the title. I don't even want to talk about Europe because, these days it takes a really, really special team and special squad right now. So it's going to be super interesting in terms of a decision with Michael Carrick. And then whenever that decision happened, in how much really are they going to be able to afford to really strengthen what I think is just about every position, right? Because you need to be deep, too deep at the very least in most positions, and that's still not there. So job well done to turn the season around, but so much work to do.
Yeah, but they still got that pull. It's Manchester United, and having Champions League football has got to make players think, okay, this could be a good option for me, surely.
It could be. It could be. Again, that, I think the managerial decision is going to be important. I like what Michael Carrick has done. I suspect some big time players may have some reservations, right? I mean, Michael Carrick's still relatively inexperienced, and the bar was so low to a degree when he came in. He saw it through, but then I suppose there's always going to be question: is he capable of taking this team to the next level, right? That's a big question. I don't know if I can answer that. I don't know if I've seen let's say a special way, or a way that you expect from the top teams for Michael Carrick. I just haven't seen it. It was just simplicity so far. Is there another step to Michael Carrick? Not so sure. I think some of the top players may be thinking that way as well.